So as you work through the book, as you read through it, hopefully you've read chapter 7 um, and begun doing some of the work. But I want to kind of run through some of the key ideas for them. One of them is with any lead. One of the things is a lead is something that people are going to read quickly and decide if they want to continue reading your story. So one of the things you want to do is you want to capture attention. You want to focus on the facts that are important, like the who, what, when, where, why somebody would want to read it, because it focuses on a who, like, Justin Bieber did something. I don't know. But so you want to focus on something, either the who, what, when, where, why. You want to focus on those ideas, but you also want to be very concise in your lead. You don't want to be really verbose or really detailed, and you don't want to be like, during the course of Friday night, the people who were most concerned with all of the issues that were going along came together and met as a city council and voted to increase tax. That's very lengthy, very wordy. It's not saying that reads quickly. I think anytime you write a lead, your first paragraph or two is usually one or two sentences. That's the first paragraph. And it usually summarizes the story, but it usually focuses on what's important, focuses on what's unusual, focuses on what's local, focuses on what will make people read the story. But it's also very concise, very quick. And usually it's one or two sentences. And usually what I say is, if you can take a breath and then you can read the entire sentence without having to take another inhalation, right? Now I had to inhale, then you've got a good lead. You don't want to be like, having to have people stop to pause to breathe. You want to be able to do it all in one breath, right? And so it needs to be one sentence, very quick, very easy to read. You don't want people to be like, wait, like tripping over the language. You want it to be very straightforward. You want it to be, officials arrested, so-and-so, other things. You want it to be concise. You want it to have the important details, but you also want it to read very quickly and easily. And one way to do it is to use very strong verbs and to use active voice. The difference between active and passive voice is usually where the subject is the one taking the action. Passive voice, on the other hand, is where the action is being applied back to the subject. So, for example, an active versus passive voice, typically, and of course there's always exceptions, but, and of course, depending upon if you want to emphasize the who, what, when, where, why, but typically, for example, active voice might be like, police arrested the mayor, right? That would be active voice. The police are taking the action of arresting, and then they're taking it upon the predicate, which is the mayor. But passive voice, on the other hand, is the mayor was arrested by the police on Friday, or something like police arrested. The mayor was arrested Friday by the police, right? In that case, the predicate, the police, is taking the action on the subject. And so and usually you add in words like was, is, you use in being verbs, and that makes it passive voice versus active. And typically in a lead, you would prefer to have an active voice. Now, sometimes, for example, if you're wanting to emphasize the fact the mayor was arrested, you would say the mayor was arrested, right? And you would use passive voice, and that would be an exception just because you want to get the mayor up front. But if you're going to say the mayor was arrested by the police, that does not read nearly, or does not sound nearly as powerful as police arrested the mayor, right? The mayor was arrested is not nearly as active, or not nearly as powerful as police arrested the mayor, right? Because there you have an actor taking an action upon the predicate. There's a very forward-moving, active, action-oriented lead. You can work around it. You could work into like, why was the mayor arrested, right? The mayor. The mayor allegedly has been stealing from the mayor allegedly stole $6 million from the city, police said. police arrested him Tuesday or something. I don't know. I think the arrest is probably more important. And I don't know that putting the mayor after the police is less important, but I do think that, that the active voice sounds better. It definitely leads better. It has a stronger feel. You can write around it. Now I'm trying to do this while I'm talking, and I don't want to write it in while I'm talking because that's not what it is. But the case is that you want to use active voice whenever possible. Now, there's always exceptions. There's always cases where, you want to lead with like the mayor or Joe Smith was this or that. But, if you were writing something like Joe Smith was, suppose Joe Smith was a famous actor. Joe Smith was found dead. Okay. Now, Joe Smith was found dead is passive voice. Instead, you would say Joe Smith died, right? That's active voice because there you have the subject acting and his action is dying. Not a very good action to take, but that's the case, is that puts the action on the subject. The subject's the one taking the action rather than the action being taken on the subject. If you had Joe Smith died Tuesday and was found by his family, well, there you're leading with that. Maybe you would say with Joe Smith died and family found him. Right? Then you've got two statements, both active voice, and it reads a little bit quicker. It reads better. And the idea there is one of the rules I always have is you want it to read very simply. You want a very good, subject, verb, predicate format. You don't want to have lots of clauses depending upon this, depending upon that. Now, you can do that as you get more into a story, but at least in a lead, typically you want to keep it fairly straightforward. You want to follow that one breath rule. You don't want people to be going, wait, because, depending upon the results, the mayor, there where you have a comma and you have to stop. I think that the best leads usually go where you have, very clear succession, very clear, and you don't have to trip over them. So you want to be very clear, you want to be very concise, but yet at the same time, you want to be specific. You don't want to leave out, there's kind of a balance you have to go between detail, specific, and inspecific. Unspecific, not inspecific isn't a word. Unspecific, you want to give the details if you want to say Chatham Council, versus the City Council, if you want to use specific names, that works. But don't get so bogged down that it becomes like the, Association for Americans and Adults and Retired People, like some really long name. You might want to abbreviate it or use a simpler thing. The council or a panel met Tuesday and then name the panel after that paragraph. But at the same time, you don't want to leave out. You want to be specific. You want to be detailed. But you don't want to be so detailed that it bogs it down, that people are busy trying to read names that are difficult, read acronyms that are difficult, read things that slow them down. They go, what's that mean? Because then they just give up and they don't want to read the rest of your story. So that's a few things. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute.